Hello everyone. So today we're going to be doing the overview of our analytics tool. So in Affinity, the analytics tool is embedded into your instance. We use Looker. Looker is Google's BI tool. To access analytics, you would come into any list that you have. Currently, I'm in the deals pipeline, which is the organization level list. You would click on this plus sign, and then you'll see all of these options here. There are a few options here, which is one, create a new dashboard from scratch. We have funnel analysis template, team activity, list summary, and introduction summary. These four templates are available to you right off the bat. You don't have to create anything. You can start utilizing them right away. Going to the list view. Right, so anything that you have on this list view should be available in analytics with a few exceptions, such as notes, reminders, and Crunchbase data. If you have subscription with Crunchbase data, you will see it here in your customized view. So unfortunately, these columns are not available in analytics. Notes, reminders are also not available with a few other columns. So once you start playing around, you will notice which columns are available and which columns are not available. But majority of the columns here that you see here will be available in analytics, and you can do different types of visualizations with them. The first template that we're going to look at today is funnel analysis. Right. So to access funnel analysis, you would simply click on this plus sign, click on the funnel analysis, and it's going to take around 10 to 20 seconds to boot up. I already have it open on my screen. However, in your case, just click on it, and it's going to take around 10 to 20 seconds. So funnel analysis template tracks any KPIs related to your status changes, right? So every time you change your status for your deal, we do track it historically, and therefore we are able to come up with different KPIs. So in this case, by default, we provide a deal funnel. In this case, deal funnel means where your deals historically have been, right? So if you had a deal that went through intro or reached out, it will be added towards this particular count. Last status before lost. Since we do track every status change historically, we can identify a previous status and the next status, right? So in this case, we can tell you before loss, where were my deals? Right? Where were they? So you can realize historically at what stage are you losing your deals, right? Maybe something happens during the reached out phase, or something happens during intro phase, and etc. Status, number of status changes, and average days in each status. As I said, we do track it historically, right? And therefore we're able to tell you on average how many days are you spending in each status in your pipeline. Deals won, lost, on hold by month. This is net new deals, meaning in January 2022, we moved 13 deals to on hold, and then July 1st, we moved one deal to on hold. This does not mean that you had 13 deals in on hold, right? You could have had 55 deals, 100 deals in on hold, but you had 13 deals that were converted to on hold. Recently changed statuses last 30 days. This is the raw data of your status changes, right? So you see the timestamp here, you see the name of your deal, you see the previous status, next status, and days in previous status, right? So this is pretty straightforward. The next template that we provide here at Affinity is list summary, and list summary simply tracks the attributes of your deals, right? So if you have a location, if you have an owner, if you have an investor type, or any other attribute that you track on your list, this is going to be captured in here, right? So here you can see we have a few single value tiles. We can tell you how many orgs you have in your pipeline, orgs added in the last 30 days. So every time you add an organization or any entry to your list, we do timestamp it, and therefore we're able to tell you this kind of KPI, right? So how many did we add in the last 30 days? We can also increase this cadence to 2 months, 3 months, yearly, you name it. If you have any sort of amounts, right, or any numerical columns in your lists, we can do different types of aggregation. In this case, we're doing the average, but however, we can do the sum or anything else that you would like, min, max, etc. First meetings and first emails. In Affinity, we do scrape your data from your calendars and your emails, and therefore we are able to tell you when you first met the company or when was the very first email with that particular company. And it's also time-stamped, and therefore we're able to tell you how many companies you met for the first time in the last 30 days and how many emails you sent for the very first time in the last 30 days. Organizations added by month, right? So every time you add an orgs, as I said, we do timestamp it, and therefore we're able to visualize this information that way, right, on monthly or yearly basis. Organizations added by owner and month. This is pretty much exact same thing. However, we're adding a third component of an owner. And in this case, we're pivoting the chart, right? So you can see, for example, in October 2021, we added 69 deals. And then those 69 deals are broken down by the owner in this stacked bar chart. Count by owner, right? So if the owner is stacked to a particular deal, we can count how many deals that owner is stacked. So for example, you have 41 deals where Jamie is stacked as an owner, right? So count by status, it's exact same thing. You have 88 deals currently in intro, 75 in reached out, and etc. Amount by owner, if there's an amount attached to a deal and there's an owner attached to a deal, we can actually aggregate this, right? So in this case, there is a sum of amount. So essentially how much commitment or any sort of amount and owners bring into your pipeline. Amount by status, exact same thing. However, we're breaking it down by status. Top 10 organizations by amount. We're simply pulling in the name, the status, and the amount, simply sorting this in the descending order so we can see it from the highest number to the lowest and simply limiting the rows by top 10. Percent count by status, it's exact same thing as this one. However, we're visualizing in a different way, right? So in this case, it's a pie chart, and by default, it's going to calculate the percentages for you without you doing any extra work, right? So you can see the percentage, but if you hover over the slides, you will also see the actual amount of deals that you have for each status. Organizations by state and country, you can see that these two visuals are visualized using the heat map. Heat map is the only visual available for this kind of information, and it's only available for a state or a country. If you have a city, a region, address, or maybe something else, you will not be able to use the map, unfortunately. But for state, which is in the United States, or country, you are able to use the map visual. Here at the bottom we have organizations by industry, and it doesn't have to be industry, it can be any other column that you track on your list level, and we can simply break it down in a bar chart. Moving on to team activity template. So this template tracks the KPIs related to your communication data, right? So essentially interactions data. All Affinity users have their emails and calendars synced, and therefore we are able to tell you who you're meeting, emailing, which people you're meeting at the companies, and etc. Right? So at the top you see there is a global filter that filters the whole dashboard for information year to date, right? So we only want to see the interaction happening this year. Organizations met, we can see all the organizations that are currently in your pipeline. We're going to calculate how many meetings you had with them and how many emails you had with them, right? And so each organization has people attached to them, right? So associated people, and you can also see it here, right? For example, in Morgan Stanley, if I met with somebody, there was a person that I met with, right? So those people are going to appear here in people met and people emailed. Interactions by country. If an opportunity or a deal has a country attached to it, we can also break the information down this way, right? So you can see for the United States, we had 9,000 emails and around 18,000 meetings. Interactions by industry is exact same thing, right? We can, if there's an industry attached to a particular deal, we can break it down that way. We can break it down by status, by teammate, and teammate in this case is an Affinity license holder, right? So anybody on your team who has, Affinity license, we will get their information. Interactions by month. This is exact same thing that you see here. We're just simply breaking down this information on monthly basis on the x-axis. Moving on to the last template that we have here at Affinity, and this is called Introduction Summary Report, right? And it tracks introductions in for your portfolios, right? So to best understand this particular template, all you have to do is simply go to your list, right? So in all organizations, let's say we select one of the companies in here, and let's see, for example, Deloitte. In this case, we can go to the introductions tab in here. And unfortunately, did not have anything here, but let's see. So we have MoneyLion in here. And once we go to the introductions, we can see introductions made to people at MoneyLion, right? So we, in the report itself, we do not track introductions made by people at MoneyLion, but we do track introductions made to people at MoneyLion, right? So anything that you see under this section will be recorded in the template itself, right? And so going to the template itself, we can see this kind of information. So for example, organizations with intros, you see MoneyLion in here, total introductions made, total organizations introduced, total target people introduced. Right here we have a little breakdown. Essentially, these are your portfolio companies, and this is how many introductions you've made to those portfolio companies, right? Team introductions, essentially all the people at your company, whoever made the introductions, it will be counted towards their count, and therefore we can break it down by the team introductions, right? Here you can see introducer full name. Here we have a more detailed breakdown, right? So network introductions, and here these are your portfolio companies, but now we're actually showing you how many companies you introduced, who are those companies, right? Who are the people that you introduced, and who introduced them in that case as well, right? Since all the introductions are timestamped, we can break it down by month, right? Same thing with the organizations, with the target people and job titles introduced, right? So each person that you introduced is going to have a job title, and therefore we can break this information down this way as well. And this would conclude the overview of our templates. The other thing that I want to show you is how do you actually export this dashboard or schedule a delivery, right? So once you have this dashboard ready, you would click on these three dots in here. You can click on download. And in this case, you would select the format. You usually select PDF. You select the paper size that fits your needs. For example, here by default it's fit page to dashboard. However, if you want to print that dashboard for a certain meeting, you can select the other formats as well. Always click to expand tables to show all the rows so you're not losing any data. Click download, and then that dashboard is going to be downloaded in a PDF format. To schedule a delivery, you would simply come in here as well, schedule the delivery. You can name your delivery, then you can set up the recurrence. So in this case daily, but we can say weekly, we can select the day, or we can select monthly and select the first or second day of the month, select the time, etc. In the email addresses, you would simply put the recipients of this particular dashboard, right? So who's going to receive that email, select the format. In this case, it would be PDF or PNG. In the filters, if you do have any filters on the dashboard, you can set it up here. And in advanced options, you can come up with a custom message, click on expand tables to show all the rows, select here paper size, and the most important thing is to select the delivery time zone. By default, is going to be set to PST, so Los Angeles time, but if you're in EST, Europe, anywhere, you can select it here. And once that's done, you can click save, and based on the recurrence that you've set up, that dashboard is going to be sent. In this case, monthly on the very first day. You can also test it by clicking on test now. So this was conclude the overview of analytics, how you send the dashboard, how you download the dashboard. The other thing that I want to show you is how you create the dashboard from scratch, right? So in your case, you would come in anywhere on your list. For example, let's say you're in a deals pipeline, you would click on the plus sign, and then you're going to see these options. Then you're going to say create new dashboard view, right? So once you create the new dashboard view, you can name this particular dashboard. Let's say we're going to call it draft in this case. We're going to edit dashboard, click on add visualization, and now you're going to be presented with all the lists, right? All the lists that you have available in your instance. Currently, since I'm working in a deals pipeline, I want to get the information from this list. So I'm simply going to type that in and double click on it in here. So this is the list we're working with. So in this case, this is the Looker UI, right? So the user interface. So you can see on the left side, we have different buckets, and those different buckets is how we split the data and separate it, right? So essentially in funnel analysis, you're going to have the data related to your status changes. In the list summary, you're going to have all Affinity enriched data or any other enriched data such as deal room, pitch book, etc. Right? And any other custom column that you track on your lists. And team activity is going to contain any data related to your interactions. Right? To simply pull in data into the visual, here in the middle section we have three different sections, right? One is filters. This is where you filter your data. The other one is visualization. This is where you actually decide what kind of visual you want. And the data pane, this is where you can do a few transformations and see the raw data of your list, right? So for the demo purposes, let's come up with the visual such as organizations added, and let's say last 30 days. So in this case, what you're going to do is simply type it in. Here we already provide this by default in Affinity, right? So you can type count and then click on count over organizations, and you're going to see this field is being pulled in into the visual, right? So once you run this, it's going to give you a number, right? So it's going to calculate how many deals you have in your pipeline, right? And you can see currently it's a single value tile. So this is what they want. This is what we want. Now we need to set up a filter. Anytime you add an organization to a pipeline, we give it a date added date, right? So here you can simply type date added date, and you can see under list summary you have this date. And now we want to see the information for the last 30 days. We would simply hover over this particular field, click on this middle icon right here, which says filter by field. And then we're going to set up in the last 30 days, run. And it's going to give you that number 7, right? Now we can even enhance this visual even further. Let's say you had a benchmark. Let's say every 30 days you wanted to add 10 companies. What we can do is actually utilize some custom fields. And here you would click add, table calculation. Let's say our target number for every 30 days is 10 deals, and let's call it target. So now we're going to save. Now you're going to see this target appear here. In the edit mode of this particular single value visual, you can go to the comparison, click on show, and you can see this number appearing at the bottom here. However, we can make it visually more appealing by clicking here and selecting calculate progress with percentage, right? So now we click on this option, and at the bottom you can see it's nicely doing this calculation for you, right? So you're currently 70% of your target, which is 10. You can also style this visual, right? You can add a color, you can add in the formatting, you can add the background color as well, anything that you would like, right? But this is a very useful KPI that a lot of our clients use. Now you would click save. You can move it around your dashboard as well, right? Let's just put it in the middle. And then for this visual to be saved, you have to actually click save twice, right? So one, you click it on the tile level, and the second on the dashboard level. So once I click on it, this visual now is saved. So let's go back to the edit mode, and I'm going to show you a few more tricks that you can do here on this dashboard. Right. So once we have this visual, if you want to create another visual, there's two ways, right? So you can either click on add here, visualization, and follow the same steps that we did before, such as deals, and select this deals and pipeline. Or you can simply duplicate this visual because you know it's already pulling from this list, right? So what we can do is simply click on duplicate tile. We can place it underneath, go to the edit mode, and simply remove everything here, right? Because like we're gonna come up with a new visual. So the next visual that I want to show you is how do we pivot data in Affinity, right? So let's call it organizations added monthly by owner, right? So here we're going to have a count of organizations, and we're going to have a month, and we're going to have an owner. So in this case, simply type in count of organizations, click on it, this appears in here. Then we're going to type date added date, because that's the date that tracks when you add an organization to the pipeline. And here we want to select month, right? Because we want to break this information down on a monthly basis. Then let's make sure that we don't pull all the data, but let's say we only pull the data for the last 12 months. Here we click on this icon, which we filtered this field by, and then the last 12, and change this days to months. and then we're gonna add an owner in this case, right? So I'm gonna click on the owner, and I'm gonna show you how this visual looks before we actually pivot it, right? So let's say select the column chart, run. It's gonna take a few seconds. And you see in here, visually, it's not very appealing or clear, in this case, what's going on, right? That's because we have to pivot the data. To pivot the data, you would simply click on this icon right here, run again, and now you will see the information is going to look much better. In the edit mode, you can also do a stacked option, right? It's going to be stacked bar. And in the values, you can select value labels, so you can see actually how many organizations each owner is adding, and then you can also do the total, right? So how many total did we add? And then simply save, and now you have a pivoted chart with stacked bars, right? You can also increase it so you can see it better, but this is how you would do it. Another trick I want to show you is how do we group certain data, right? And to best understand it is if we go back to the list level, and let's say we'll look, for example, for this column, which is industry, right? And let's say select Affinity. You can see that this is a multi-value field, right? Meaning that you have, for each organization, you have multiple values, right? By default, in analytics, this is not how it's going to look like, right? And I'm going to show you right now. So in this case, we can also duplicate the style, put it in the middle here, edit, and in this case, all we need, let's call it list of unique values, and it will make sense in a second. Just remove the ones that we do not need. In all fields, and here we're going to type name. This is going to be the name of the organization, right? In industry column that we just saw on the list level, which is this one. Awesome. And let's say let's just add a filter for date added date, right? We only want to look at the deals that we added in the last 30 days, for example. Run. It's going to take a few seconds. Awesome. So now you see the problem, right? We have automate.io, and it's what it's doing in analytics by default. It's breaking down every single value into its own row, right? So on the list level, you would see all of these values being aggregated into one cell, but here it's breaking it down into every single row. To get rid of this is very simple, right? You would simply hover over industry column, right? Or the value here, click on the three dots here, aggregate, and then click on the list of unique values. Once you do that, it's going to create another measure for you. The next step is to get rid of the original column. You would simply just click on it and then click run. And so now you can see it looks so much better, right? So what it's doing, it's aggregating all of that information based on the name into one cell. And this is how you can get rid of the duplicates. Simply save this, and then we can later save the dashboard. And the last and final trick I want to show you is how you actually group different values, right? So for example, let's duplicate this tile, go in here, and let's say we're going to call it grouped statuses. So in this case, right, so we can get rid of this, we can get rid of this, get rid of this. Let's pull in the current status, right? So the statuses that you have in your pipeline and the count of organizations. So simply, this is going to be literally a snapshot of your deals, right? So how many deals you have currently in each status. So this is currently the pipeline that you have. But let's say you wanted to combine the first three into its own group, right? And leave the rest as it is. To do that, you would simply hover over a current status, click on here, group, right? And let's add first three. We're gonna name this group first three, and we're gonna add intro, reached out, introduction, and leave the rest as it is, right? Let's give it a name, grouped statuses, save. And now once I run this, you're gonna see a new value being assigned, right? So in the group statuses, you're gonna see that intro is gonna be first 3, reached out is gonna be first 3, and introduction is gonna be first 3. Let's just give it a second. Awesome. So you can see this is a new value now, right? And then you see the reason it's currently breaking everything down is because we still have this current status. But let's say you also wanted to aggregate these 3 numbers into just one, right? So you would simply remove the original column, which is current status, and now the data is going to be aggregated based on this field and not the current status field. So you will see this first 3 will become one row and is going to sum up these 3 values. So once I run this, it's going to take a few seconds. Awesome. So now you see the first 3 becomes one value, and all those companies were aggregated into one single row. And this is how you can utilize the group statuses or just group functionality in general. Click save in here as well. And now you have this dashboard saved, right? So by default, every time you also create a dashboard is going to be marked as private, meaning you are the only person who is going to be able to view this dashboard. If you're creating a dashboard for your team, what you want to do is click on here and make it shared, right? That way, every single member of your team can access this dashboard. In analytics, we also have 2 user roles. One is a creator and one is a viewer. If you are the creator, whenever you click on the plus sign, you will see all of these options. This means that you can edit the dashboard, you can create dashboard, you can modify anything, right? So you have all the functionality. If you are a user, however, you're not going to see any of these options. If you are a viewer, you're not going to see any of these options, and you will only be able to view the dashboards. You will not be able to edit the dashboard, modify the dashboard, or anything else. And if you want to make any of your teammates a creator, you would simply reach out to one of your to either a CSM, customer support, or your onboarding managers, and they can fix it for you. So for example, I'm currently a creator. If I click on these 3 dots, I have all of these options such as edit dashboard and etc. If you are a viewer, you will not be able to see this. And the last piece of information for you guys that I have is going back on the list level. If I make a change here on the list level, for example, let's say you add a company or you change something here, such as a status, or maybe you add a size of fund and etc. It's gonna take around 1 hour to 1 hour and a half for this change to appear in analytics. Unfortunately, we do have a lag time, and so usually take an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes might take longer. So if, for example, you make a change and it's not updating for a day or a day and a half, you would simply reach out to our customer support or just support in general, and that can help you out as well. And this would conclude the overview of analytics. Hopefully this was helpful, and yeah, happy learning.